Any king is bound to make a few enemies, and King Charles III is no exception. But what could he have done to make a comedian refuse one of the crown's highest honors? Opinionated comedian Joy Behar is more likely to spray her verbal venom at Republicans than royalty, but the co-host of The View couldn't resist taking a shot at King Charles mere weeks before his coronation. Behar set up her talking points by chronicling the release of Prince Harry's tell-all tome, Spare, which dished out all the dirt on his squabbles with the rest of the royal family in the wake of his marriage to Meghan Markle. Presumably in retaliation against Harry's excerpts that criticized King Charles's wife, Queen Consort Camilla, the monarch evicted his son and daughter-in-law from their posh Frogmore cottage.
Now, is that a little petty for a king to just throw his own kid out because he said a couple of things?
Those couple of things included Harry's pleas to his father to not marry Camilla. Ordinarily, Behar doesn't pay much attention to the drama percolating in Buckingham Palace, but the co-host was particularly annoyed that the couple was to be replaced by King Charles's disgraced brother, Prince Andrew. Andrew's association with Jeffrey Epstein and settlement of an alleged sexual assault lawsuit brought disgrace to the throne. Behar pointed out, Prince Andrew is coming, right? So they're just as corrupt as anybody else. Comedian Russell Brand recalled meeting King Charles in 2010, and to his recollection, the encounter was hardly auspicious for either of them. As a guest on the daytime talk show Live with Regis and Kelly, Brand recounted being pushed into a reception line to meet the then prince, saying, "I was shoved into him, and I saw a moment in his eyes as we shook hands when he realized, that's that mad comedian, and he sort of tried to get away. I had him in a bit of a grip. I was holding on thinking, this is my moment. I'm not letting him go just yet. There was a moment where he was trying to recoil and I heard his wrist click a bit." That was the closest Brand ever got to physically damaging the monarch, although the comedian has frequently had Charles in his crosshairs online. During one episode of Brand's Stay Free podcast, he attacked the king over his wealth, stating, "King Charles has got 1.8 billion pounds. Why would you ever listen to a member of the royal family talking about poverty or inequality or really the environment or anything when that kind of imbalance in power is what creates many of the world's problems?" The United States has long held contradictory views of Buckingham Palace's residents. Some have fallen for their whimsical fairy tale allure, while more patriotic types recall how the monarchy's brand of colonialism triggered the American Revolution. Comedian and talk show host Stephen Colbert is definitely of the latter stock, and he's gleefully mocked the royal family on multiple occasions. The Late Show host has reserved plenty of vitriol for King Charles in particular. He has commented on the bizarre nature of some royal traditions and sympathized with the British people for being forced to deal with them.
He's supposed to be the ultimate public servant and he doesn't pay taxes? That is going to cost him some votes. What?
On another occasion, Colbert couldn't resist commenting on the removal of politically incorrect ingredients in Charles's coronation anointing oil. He joked, "That makes no sense. If a king's head isn't greased with whale intestine wax and secretions from a nocturnal tropical rodent, then I'm sorry. But hereditary rulers start to sound kind of stupid." It doesn't seem like Colbert will be having the king on his show anytime soon. Given King Charles's past as a polo player, it's no surprise that sports are near and dear to his heart. However, one football legend had nothing but scorn for the monarch, Argentinian superstar Diego Maradona. In 1986, Maradona attended a meet and greet with Charles while the monarch was still Prince of Wales. But things got awkward. Guillermo Coppola, Maradona's then agent, recalled, "There was great emotion from all of us. At one point, however, Diego said to me, 'Coppola, tell that big nose to take his hand off my shoulder.' I looked at him astonished. I didn't know what to do. That big nose, as Diego had called him, was Prince Charles." The animosity was likely due to Maradona's general dislike for England, which had been triggered by the 1982 Falklands War. Just 4 years prior to the meeting, the Brits defeated Argentina in a naval battle over the Falkland Islands and South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands. The star managed to get personal revenge against his vilified nation, scoring 2 goals for Argentina in a victory against England on their way to a 1986 World Cup title. As someone raised during apartheid in South Africa, former The Daily Show host Trevor Noah can't resist skewering anyone who's the product of elitism and privilege. And that makes a literal king a prime comedic target. One of Noah's pot shots centered on a 2022 viral video taken within the first week of the king's reign in which he appeared to be signing a guest book. First, Charles looked flustered when he entered the wrong date, then went ballistic when his pen started leaking. In response, Noah noted on a Daily Show episode, "It's going to take a lot of work to shape the monarchy into something that everyone can get behind. But based on his first week in power, it looks like King Charles isn't the guy to do it." Noah also mocked Charles for apparently surrounding himself with handlers doing menial tasks like picking up items for the king.
When I was a kid, I thought kings had to pull swords out of stones. This dude can barely pull his out of his own pants.
British tabloids reacted in anger to Noah's attacks on Charles, with the Daily Mail condemning the comedian for being profane and tasteless. Wacky warbler Morrissey has had it in for King Charles as far back as 1986. Back then, he fronted the Smiths, which released the album The Queen is Dead that year. The title track confronted the monarch with lyrics asking, "I say, Charles, don't you ever crave to appear on the front of the Daily Mail dressed in your mother's bridal veil?" The singer-songwriter hasn't shied away from taking shots at Britain's most famous family since. Before the wedding between Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, in 2011, Morrissey had already trashed the affair. He told the BBC, "Why would I watch the wedding? I do seriously believe that they are benefit scroungers. Nothing else." Morrissey's skewering of Charles and the royal family seems to be well known in literary circles. Writer James Parke penned a poem called Ode to King Charles III, printed in 2022 in The Atlantic, which mentioned the singer by name. It reads in part, "The trees groan like Morrissey, the rain comes down, and an owl hoots confidentially, knowing something I don't. Millions will mourn your departed mother, and millions won't." Despite his button-down attire and English accent, comedian John Oliver is anything but a monarchist. He'll be the first person to tell you that he's not a big fan of the royal family.
To me, they're like a human appendix. We've long evolved past needing them, and there's a compelling case for their surgical removal.
Oliver has been especially harsh towards King Charles, calling him everything from the world's least likable orphan to a man whose face only a mother could love and only two cousins could produce. In 2022, Sky TV, which carries Last Week Tonight in the UK, censored some of Oliver's controversial commentary surrounding Queen Elizabeth's death, prompting an angry response from fans on social media. Those edits bewildered Oliver more than anything. He told Seth Meyers, "All I said was that Britain is still mourning the shocking loss, right, of a 96-year-old woman from natural causes. It's literally not a joke." Oliver's dislike of England's hierarchical mentality compelled him to reject receiving the Order of the British Empire, one of the highest honors a UK citizen can receive. He continued, "My wife was mad though, because she wanted to go to Buckingham Palace. I had to kind of explain to her, listen, there's a class system in England. This is stuff. It's not important for you to know this, but I really can't go there and behave." Howard Stern has made a career out of lambasting those he dislikes, and didn't mince words about King Charles. Stern said on his Sirius XM broadcast, "First of all, Prince Charles is a the whole ceremony they're acting like that guy went to war or something and then beat up all the other people." Stern added he was repulsed by a coronation that put British taxpayers on the hook for such an expensive event. While Buckingham Palace officials were hardly transparent over how much the royal affair cost, CNBC ballparked the range as between $63 million and $125 million. Roughly 23,000 dignitaries showed up for the proceedings, including singer Katy Perry, actor Emma Thompson, and playwright Andrew Lloyd Webber. Stern added, "It doesn't take a brain surgeon to say this, but England's having its own economic problems, and they spent a fortune on that coronation. And it's just repugnant to watch a country suffering through economic problems, and then you see the pomp and circumstance." Back when he was the Prince of Wales, King Charles was vocal about everything from climate change and modern architecture to holistic medicine and organic farming. So passionate was Charles that he butted heads with politicians and infuriated some of them, most notably former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. According to diaries kept by Alistair Campbell, Blair's political strategist for 6 years, the statesman was livid with Charles's interference with government policy, including the abolition of fox hunting and the exclusion of hereditary peers entitled to occupy the House of Lords. Campbell wrote, "While publicly we stayed supportive, Tony Blair said Charles had to understand there were limits to the extent to which they could play politics with him." Blair was particularly upset when Charles wrote a letter attacking the Prime Minister over his support of genetically modified food, suggesting that even Blair's own wife disagreed with him on the issue. Campbell elaborated, "He was pretty wound up about it, said it was a straightforward, anti-science position. It was also, I said, a cheap shot, because it was an issue on which Charles said he was open-minded, but in fact had a settled opinion." In 2018, when asked whether the personal pursuit of pet causes would continue once he became king, Charles responded, "No, it won't. I'm not that stupid."